Hi everyone, it's such a blessing to be here with you today. My name is Ingrid Honkala and my NDA happened when I fell into a tank filled with frigid water when I was almost 3 years old. At that age, I didn't know that if you fall into water, you drown. So while I was going through the most terrifying moment of my life, suddenly I went from a state of absolute terror to one of absolute and complete joy and freedom. While I was experiencing this state of well-being, suddenly I saw a body suspended in the water. And somehow I knew that that was my body. But since I was born as a very sick child and I spent the first 3 years of my life feeling so unwell, when I saw that body, somehow I also had the realization that I had the free will not to go back to it. So I turned around and left. At that moment, just like that, in an instant, I appeared in the maid's room, who's supposed to be taking care of me, but she was lying on her bed. And from there, just like that again, I appeared on my mom's path, who was on her way to work. She was about 10 minutes from home when I saw her and I said, "Oh, that's Mom." And right at that precise moment, she felt like if something was going wrong at home with one of her babies. And she turned around and started to run back home. But right there, I started just getting distracted by the realization that wherever I put my mind, I could go. It was like time and space had vanished and I could be anywhere at any time. And from there, just like that again, I appeared in a realm that was completely made of pure, bright, shiny light. And I felt that I was being absolutely welcome. I felt like I was just coming back home. And I started to dissolve and become one with the whole. But I was still having a sense of self. But from there, I experienced a sense of nothingness. Since it's pretty much impossible to explain what nothing means, I only can tell you that it's the absence of absolutely everything we know. No feeling, no meaning, no concept, no color, no movement. In the meanwhile, my mom that finally made it home, although we live in a pretty big house, she knew exactly where to go. And she directed herself to the back of the house where there was a patio. And living in the tank was my oldest sister, who was still too little to help me because she was just almost 4 years old. But thanks to her, my mom knew that I was in that tank. And she got me out of the water, and I was not breathing. There was no pulse. But I was absolutely disconnected at that moment with this realm. So when she started to perform CPR on me, I didn't feel absolutely anything. And then just like that, I felt that I had jumped from the tallest high rise in the world. And I started feeling like I was being sucked back, like pulled back into this realm, into this body. And I knew that I was back when all the feelings of discomfort, pain, and fear were back. Let me tell you, I was not a happy person. At that moment, I felt that I was absolutely disconnected with my parents, with this body. I didn't feel that there was any connection. I was absolutely detached. And I didn't feel like my parents were my parents. I felt them more like they were my equal. And I had the sense that we were all one mind. But because I didn't have the language of the way to communicate what was happening to me, I started to feel that I could not relate with anyone. And I started to feel like I was angry and sicker than before. I used to look at myself in the mirror and scream aloud, "Mom, you don't understand. This is not me. This is not my name. I should not be here." And while we were going through this really hard time in our lives, the help that I needed arrived in the most remarkable way. Right after my NDE, I started to have similar experiences to the one I had when I nearly died. And in these experiences, I was being taken to the realm of the light that I experienced during my NDE. At that age, I didn't know I was having out-of-body experiences. And during one of these journeys, suddenly I was surrounded by starlight figures that were shining with all different colors. And then one of them turned itself into a human shape, approached me and touched me. And I said, wow, you are a being of light. After that, they started to appear anywhere at any time. And although they didn't do or say anything, I felt so well in their company that I started to heal. I started to feel better. And I was eager to go to bed, and I was telling my parents that I was seeing beings of light, but they thought that I was just dreaming. Although I was feeling better and I was healing, I was still throwing big tantrums because I felt very disconnected to my persona and to my name. And in one occasion, somebody came and called me Ingrid, and I would get bothered, and I turned to this person and said, don't call me like that. That is not my name. And the person said, so what is your name? And I said, I do not need one. And that, after that big tantrum, the beings of light started to talk to me. They said to me, it is going to take time for them to understand. They said, as you already know, in the realm of the light, names are not needed. And I said, wow, you are right. And from that moment, I started to have the clarity that, yeah, there's something happening here. There's different realms. There's something going on here. And they said that all the experiences that I was having and the ones that I was going to have were all gifts given to me to help me and to help others. At that age, I didn't know how I could help anybody. But they said, you don't have to worry about that. We are going to be here to guide you, and you're going to meet people in your path that is going to help you and guide you as well. But they also said that it was better to remain quiet for now because they were not going to understand. And yes, soon I realized that I was born in Colombia, where 98% of the population was Catholic, and we were also having a time where the country was at war. So there was a lot of conflict in the minds of people, and they were not open to any of these ideas at the time. So I started to feel very lonely and very different from everybody else. And feeling sad, I asked the beings of light, why me? Why this is happening to me? And the answer was, because you are special and you are beginning to know it. And I said, what do you mean when you say that I am special? They say, everybody is special, but not everybody knows it yet. They said, someday your experience will talk for you, and it will give you enough clarity for you to be able to help yourself and to help others. And from there, the beings of light started to guide me and to teach me. Like the beings of light said, I started to meet people in my path that was there to help me. And one of the these first people was my mom. At the age of 5, she discovered that I could see auras and beings of light who she understood as angels. Later, when I was 6 and I started to see spirits, she was able to help me in this path because she could see spirits as well. And at the age of 8, my grandmother, who was seeking for different spiritual paths, started to teach me meditation and spirituality. And later on throughout my life, I discovered that I have been having visions of the future since I was 4. And at the age of 19, I started to have access to past life experiences. And later I realized that I have many more gifts. And although I felt so different from everybody else, I also started to realize that I could use these gifts, like they have said to me, to help others and to help myself and to help the people right next to me, who was my family. Years ago, after many sufferings, derived mainly from the fact that I felt so different from everybody else, I had what I would call a big awakening. During this awakening, I experienced the same state of wholeness, and it's the same state of nothingness that I had when I nearly died, but this time in absolute awareness, right here. And an enormous desire to wanting to connect with our source, with our creator, awaken even harder, even stronger within myself. And two questions that I've been asking throughout my life were finally answered. These questions were, when did we stop being one with the whole? And how is it even possible to forget what we truly are? And the answer was, one never stopped being one. One never left the source. One just got distracted and seemingly forgot. They also said, the purpose of time and experience is to help you remember. It is to bring you back home. It is to bring you back to source. According to the beings of light, nothing in the universe lacks purpose. So even my NDE happening when I was so young had a purpose. According to them, I was old enough to remember, but young enough not to be conditioned yet. And they were very right. I was young enough to be pure and innocent, but old enough to never forget who I truly was at the core of my being. Since I was very young, I used to ask how I could have seen my body lifeless if I was still alive. So from there, I was already in the clarity, in the knowing that we are something beyond this physical reality, this outer reality. All my experiences and awakenings have brought me to realize that we do not need to die to go to heaven, because heaven is here and now. So I invite you to go back to that space of silence and center in that is beyond and behind the I or me. Have you ever thought, what is that is behind the I or me, that thinks, that feels, that breathes? What is that is behind and beyond this surface reality? A paint cannot exist without a canvas. The written letter on this book cannot exist without the paper. And we cannot exist without the essence of who we are. Right there, when we start sensing our source, we will realize that we are more than we think we are. And we will bring ourselves to the understanding of that I am that I am, that essence, that source, that creator, or what we call God. Once we attain the sense of our our source, clarity will come to us. And we will realize that the purpose of every challenge, every struggle, and every experience in our life was no other than to bring us back home. Once at home, we can show others the way back home. Every free being can teach others the way to freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from the egoic mind. Freedom from thinking that we're different from each other, that we're separated from our source. Freedom from fear. And this can be done one person at a time, like I did it throughout my life, starting with myself, with me, and then my family, and then the friend, and then the neighbor. Every awakened being can serve as the light in the awakening of hundreds and thousands more. And I invite you and you and you and you and you and me to be that light. Have you realized, just think about it right now, that our hearts, each one of our hearts is beating like one wave, one sound, one mantra. We are all sitting in the exact same space and breathing the same air. And so they will realize that we're sharing the same mind. It's like the fingers of the hand. They look separate, they seem separate and unique, but they are attached to the same hand. One heart, one mind, one essence, one source. You are me, and I am you, is just the beginning. Someday we will realize that there is not even you and me. There is only one. There is only oneness. If you want to know more about who I am, please visit my website at ingridhonkala.com. I also wrote a book called A Brightly Guided Life: How a Scientist Learned to Hear Her Inner Wisdom. Thank you very much. Thank you.